This is the story of a poor woman named Hannah and a billionaire named Dominic. One was hungry and cold. The other had everything money could buy. But one rainy morning in Lagos, their lives crossed in a way no one expected. And what happened after will make you cry. It was a cold morning. The rain was falling slowly. Cars rushed past on the busy Lagos road. Hannah stood at the corner holding her baby Julia close to her chest. The baby was wrapped in a thin cloth. She was crying softly. Her body was cold. Her face was wet. Hannah had no umbrella. No jacket, no food, no home. Her slippers were torn. Her dress was soaked. But she did not move. She could not move. Last night, she and her baby had nothing to eat, not even one spoon of food. So this morning, even though the rain was falling, she was ready to stand by the roadside until someone helped. It wasn't because she wanted the food so badly for herself, but because her baby was hungry, and she could not watch her child suffer again. People walked past. Some looked at her with pity. Some looked away. Two men stood near her and whispered, "Why is she standing there in the rain?" "Maybe it's her job," the other man said. "A lot of people pretend just to get free money. Some even go as far as renting a baby to attract pity." Hannah heard them, but she said nothing. She just wiped Julia's face and rocked her gently. Hannah stretched out her hand. Her voice was soft, tired, but full of pain. "Please, help me. Just small food for my baby. She has not eaten, please." She looked down at Julia's face. The baby's lips were dry. Her cry was now weak. Hannah held her tighter. "Don't worry, my baby. Mummy will find food today. Even if I have to stand here all day, help will come." But Hannah did not know. That help was closer than she thought. Inside a black Jeep, a man sat at the back seat. His name was Dominic. He was very rich. The kind of rich that made people look twice when he walked by. Today, he was going to his office very early. He had a big meeting with some foreign people who wanted to work with his company. This meeting was very important. It could help his company grow and bring more business from different parts of the country. The road was busy. The cars were moving slowly. It was the usual Lagos traffic. Dominic leaned back in his seat and looked out through the glass. And then, something caught his eye. He sat up. A young woman was standing by the roadside. She was holding a baby. The rain was still falling. Not too heavy, but steady enough to soak someone. The baby was already wet. The woman looked tired, worn out, almost like she had no strength left. Dominic's eyes stayed on her. He saw how she held the baby tightly, like that child was the only thing she had left in the world. She wasn't moving. She wasn't shouting. She just stood there, asking quietly for help. Dominic felt something deep inside. He knew this wasn't ordinary. A person begging with a little baby in the rain. This was pain, real pain. He looked at her again, and then he made a decision. "Stop the car," Dominic said. The driver looked back. "Sir?" "Just stop." The driver pulled over and stopped the car. Dominic opened the door. He stepped into the rain. His shoes touched the wet road. His suit began to get wet, but he didn't care. He walked slowly toward the woman. Hannah didn't notice him. She was busy rocking her baby, Julia. The baby was still crying, soft and tired. Dominic stood in front of her. Hannah looked up. She was surprised to see a tall man standing so close. She looked at his face. He looked serious, but kind. "Good morning," Dominic said gently. Hannah said nothing. She only nodded. He looked at the baby. "What's her name?" "Julia," Hannah replied softly. Dominic stepped closer and looked at Julia's face. She was shaking. Her lips trembled as she cried quietly. "Has she eaten?" he asked. Hannah shook her head. "No, sir. Not since yesterday." Dominic looked at her soaked clothes. Her hands were freezing from the cold. "And you? Have you eaten?" Hannah looked down. "No, sir, but it's okay. I just want to find food for my baby." Dominic stayed quiet for a moment. He looked at both mother and child. Then he said, "Come with me." Hannah looked up, confused. "Sir? Come, let me help you." Hannah stood still. She looked at Dominic. She was afraid. She had never spoken to a rich man before. She didn't know what to think. But when she looked at his eyes, they were calm. They were kind. She looked down at Julia. The baby was still shaking. Her tiny fingers were cold. Hannah took a deep breath. Then she nodded slowly. She followed Dominic toward the black car. The driver opened the door. Hannah stepped in, holding Julia close to her chest. She sat carefully at the edge of the seat, afraid to touch anything. The driver looked at her through the mirror. He didn't say a word, but his eyes were full of questions. Hannah avoided his eyes. She looked at her baby and kept rocking her gently. Beside her, Dominic sat quietly. He looked ahead as the car moved, but his mind was full of thoughts. Who was this woman? What had happened to her? And how did she end up like this? Inside the car, Dominic picked a small towel from the seat. He handed it to Hannah. "Here," he said, "use this to dry the baby." Hannah took the towel quickly. "Thank you, sir," she said. Her hands were shaking as she wrapped it around Julia. Dominic looked at her. Her dress was still wet. Her hair was dripping. But she didn't complain. She was only focused on her baby. "What's your name?" he asked. "Hannah," she replied softly. "Okay, Hannah. Where is your home?" Hannah looked down. She didn't speak at first. Then she said in a low voice, "We sleep on the street, sir." Dominic nodded slowly. He didn't show shock. He just breathed in and said, "All right. I'll take you somewhere safe." Hannah looked up. Her eyes were wide. "Really, sir?" Dominic nodded. "Yes, somewhere dry and warm. You and Julia need rest. And food." Tears filled Hannah's eyes, but she wiped them quickly. "Thank you, sir. God bless you." Dominic said nothing more. He looked out the window deep in thought. But Hannah did not know that this was just the beginning. Dominic looked at his watch again. He knew he was almost late for the meeting. The foreign representatives might be waiting at his office already. It was an important meeting, one that could affect a significant growth in his company. But he looked at Hannah. He looked at her baby Julia. They were both tired, cold, hungry. He shook his head. "No," he said to himself. "They need food first." He told the driver to stop at a small restaurant. They went inside. Dominic didn't care who was watching. He ordered hot rice, fried plantain, chicken, and warm milk for the baby. He asked them to bring water. Hannah sat at the edge of the chair, still holding Julia. Her stomach was turning. She had not eaten in 2 days. When the food came, she looked at Dominic. "Can I eat here, sir?" she asked softly. Dominic nodded. "Yes, eat." Hannah bowed her head. She placed Julia on her lap and fed her the warm milk. Then she started eating. She ate slowly at first, like someone who was afraid the food would disappear. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she chewed. Dominic watched in silence. He didn't speak. He just waited. When she finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Then she looked up at Dominic. Her voice was quiet. "Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir." Dominic leaned forward. "Tell me, what happened to you? How did you end up like this?" Hannah looked down at her baby. Then she began to speak. "Sir, I don't have anyone in this world. My parents died when I was a little girl. I grew up in an orphanage in Ibadan. Life was hard. Very hard. As I grew older, I learned how to survive. I worked in people's houses. I cleaned, I washed, I cooked. Anything I could do to survive." She looked at Julia's face and kissed her forehead. "Then one day I met Jacob. He was a taxi driver in Lagos, but he came from a neighboring country. He was kind, and we became close. We loved each other. After 1 year, he said we would get married." She paused. Dominic was still listening. The restaurant was quiet. "A few months later, I found out I was pregnant. I was scared at first, but when I told Jacob, he was happy. He said he was ready to marry me, but he needed to travel home and tell his family. He said it was their tradition, that he must tell his family first before bringing his fiancée home." Her voice broke. "That was the last time I saw him." Dominic blinked. He sat up straight. "What do you mean?" Hannah nodded slowly. "He promised to come back in 1 week, but he never came back. His number stopped going. I waited. I cried. I begged his friends. But no one knew anything. Or maybe they were just hiding the truth. I don't know. I had no money left. I lost the house I was staying in. No job would take me because of the pregnancy, so I started sleeping outside. I begged for food. She wiped her eyes. Now Julia is all I have. Dominic's heart was heavy. He looked at the little girl, now sleeping peacefully. Then he looked at Hannah. She was still young, still full of hope. But life had treated her like nothing. Dominic took a deep breath. He made a quiet promise in his heart. This is not where her story will end. Dominic reached into his pocket. He brought out some money. Then he placed it on the table in front of Hannah. "Take this," he said. "It will help you and your baby for now." Hannah looked at the money. Her hands began to shake. "Sir, this is too much," she said quietly. "I can't take all of this." Dominic looked her in the eyes. "Take it," he said again gently. "You need it." Hannah looked down at Julia, who was still asleep in her arms. She picked the money and held it close to her chest. Then she bowed her head. "Thank you, sir. May God bless you." Dominic nodded. He smiled a little. Then he looked at his wristwatch. His eyes widened. The time for his meeting had already passed. The foreign guests were probably already at his office. He stood up quickly. "I have a very important meeting this morning," he said. "It will last for about 3 hours." He brought out a card from his wallet. It was his business card. It had his name and number on it. He handed it to her. "Call me after 3 hours," he